Human land use practices have shaped our environment for as long as anyone can remember. Unfortunately, some habitats such as wetlands seem to be the first on the chopping block when it comes to decide what stays and what goes. Typically, we think of swamps as being disease-ridden or spooky because of historical views and stories about them being taboo or evil. But what are they really like? Should anyone even care if they all disappear? Wetlands are actually pretty nice looking and don't contain diseases or spooky shamans. But how can we define them? What exactly classifies a wetland? Ducks Unlimited defines a wetland as any area that holds water either temporarily or permanently. Some are year-round and others only hold water for 1 or 2 months each spring. Canada classifies 5 types of wetlands, the first being bogs, which are peat-dominated. Next are fens, which are similar to bogs, but have less water inflow. The third type is the reedy marsh area, which has all sorts of sedges and grasses. The fourth type is treed swamps. And the last type, which doesn't have a diagram, is open water areas. And these are often transition points between wetlands and lakes. Wetland areas are essential for baby ducks, and of course other types of waterfowl and other animals in general. They provide habitat for many different species. They filter and purify water, control groundwater, reduce erosion, store twice the amount of carbon that rainforests do. They are very important areas, and they cover a very small percentage of the world, only about 6% of the Earth's surface. They're teeming with life and should be regarded as more than just areas that can be made into human habitat. So wetlands provide many ecosystem services for people. So here we have our model wetland. The clay represents the land area. You've got some dirt on it to help simulate erosion. And the wetland is represented by these sponges. And this area on the end here is the lake area where we've got our ducks who are swimming around right now in a very dry looking lake. So let's take a minute to make it rain on our wetland area and see what happens. So as you can see, the water does seep through to the other side, but not all the soil can go with it. Some of the soil is stopped by the wetland area, and some of the water is absorbed, preventing it all from flooding this lake area and controlling the amount of water that goes through. Wetlands in real life, they filter out a lot of toxins and purify our water and play a big part in flood control. In Canada, about 14% of the landmass is wetland area. Ontario has lost 70% of its existing wetlands, and 25% of prairie potholes remain in Manitoba. It's estimated that about 64% of all Alberta wetlands are gone now. It's hard to exactly estimate how much wetland damage has occurred, but there are definitely negative consequences to draining them. Let's take a quick look at what those consequences might be. In Alberta, one of our biggest problems is that we clear out wetlands in order to make way for farmland, so that ranchers can take care of their cows or livestock or plant crops in the area. So here we have our little wetland taken out, and now we've got some cows here, and there's nothing to stop all this nice soil from flowing into this lake. So let's see what happens this time. Oh, but that's all that dirt is just going right in there. Nothing's stopping it, and the water just floods right in there, and now we've got some pretty unhappy looking cows. And that's a big important reason for why we need wetlands, to control all this water and to stop this flooding from happening. Prairie potholes are one of the most vulnerable types of wetland area. These small little lake-like structures are the result of glacial melt, and they're regarded as rich farmland and untapped potential to increase maximum farm yields. Draining prairie potholes puts waterfowl at risk because these are favorable breeding areas and they're extremely fertile as well. Fortunately, not all land meets this fate. Wagner Natural Area was given formal protection by the Alberta government in 1975. William Wagner gave his property for protection because of the unique fens, marl ponds, and diverse plant life on his property. Since then, land purchases have grown the area to 218 hectares, and this rich hiking area is cared for by the Wagner Natural Area Society. The land was saved from disturbance or destruction because of people recognizing its value and importance as a unique ecosystem. About 1/3 of all of Canada's endangered wildlife relies on wetland areas for its habitat. So now more than ever, reclamation and conservation is very important. Unfortunately, reclamation takes a lot of time, money, and effort, and over 100 years we've found that there's only 50% of the carbon that was stored, about 74% biogeochemical recovery, 77% biological recovery, and a lot of released CO2. Maps and the interpretive trail at Wagner Fen are one of the easiest ways to encourage conservation and education about wetland areas. Ducks Unlimited is the largest conservation group in Canada. They have 76 years of wetland conservation experience and were established in 1938. The organization has completed 9,557 habitat projects and conserved 6.2 million acres of wetland and associated habitat. They are involved in research, education, and various conservation projects in order to protect Canada's waterfowl. They are the leading conservation group in Canada and make international efforts as well. One such project area is the John E. Poole Boardwalk located in Big Lake, which is located near St. Albert. It is an interpretive area that not only has informative and educational signs explaining how wetlands function and what they do, but it also allows you to get closer to nature and watch ducks and other waterfowl in their natural habitat. Big Lake also happens to be an important bird area. Nature Alberta runs the Important Bird Area program in Alberta. Since 1996, this program focuses on citizen action through a caretaker network to report on bird populations at designated sites and care for this valuable habitat. There are 51 important bird areas in Alberta. Those involved in this program report on how many birds they see in the area, what species of birds they see in the area, and the general condition of the site. This way, we can find out how polluted the site is and if there needs to be any care or special attention given to an area. This prevents trauma to wetland areas and helps birds and other wildlife survive and thrive. Slowly but surely, attitudes towards wetlands are changing. They're not just for bird watchers or conservation or nature nuts anymore. More people see value in wetlands. A Southern Ontario study showed that 1/3 of their 1,407 households surveyed were willing to pay to retain existing wetland areas. Some small towns utilize wetlands as tourist stops, allowing additional income and traffic into the area. This utilization also spreads awareness of these important areas. Wetlands are becoming a beautiful and important part of cities. Attitudes are shifting about trade-offs for land use, and more we're going to see wetlands being saved instead of being drained in order for humans to expand their roadways, their agriculture, and other various endeavors.